Okay, folks, we're good to go. Okay, we have confirmation of quorum. We'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to acknowledge that we're located on the traditional territory of the Lakotach people. Petition delegations, none. Adoption minutes, none. Business arising. Adoption of public agenda. That the agenda for March 31st, 2025, a special meeting of the board be adopted as presented.
Move adoption.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Public considerations, nothing. Notice of motions? Nope. Okay. Chair's report, nothing. Read down to bylaw number 591 of 2025-2029 Financial Plan and Capital Expenditures Program. With the report from the CAO be received.
So moved.
Thank you. Second, Director Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Mike and I will again do a bit of a tag team here. We've got a PowerPoint that is short and sweet and reflects the amendments to the allocation policy and the changes that we made, combining with the draft financial plan that the board supported in January. So this is a summary of that. There was a question about the wholeness, if you will, of the financial plan, given the time limitations that we're to work with from the board from last Wednesday and today being the deadline date when the financial plan must be adopted. We have met for those that are curious, we have met the statutory requirement of providing the bylaw and the necessary information that's required, and give the finance team a week or so, and they will be able to update and print and distribute the finance books as you've been accustomed to in previous years. It just was not the time available to print those books, but again, they're not a statutory requirement. We're happy to work on them after today and get them out to you folks as soon as possible. But the presentation that we have here will summarize the individual services, the munis and the electoral areas as a whole, as we typically do. Well, Mike, let's start with.
So this slide is just a bit of a recap for anybody watching where we're at. We first presented the draft budget back in January. We went through some deliberations. There was two major changes for that regarding some mostly funding for capital. And then on the last meeting at March 26, we had to look at the change the overhead policy. So while point 2 was quite simple, point 3 actually changed pretty much every service we have. And then as Dave mentioned, that's going to take some time to reflect in this book. He said a week or so I'll emphasize or so. We are working on the audit and everything else, but this is just the kind of the Reader's Digest version of the overall plan, but it will be a priority for us to get that out. So the revised capital plan presented in January, again, we had the one big change of the funding section, and then the middle column there is the change that stems from the change in allocation policy. Overall, there is a move from general admin to the EA admin, which explains most of the change. And we always measure in changes of taxes per home. Essentially, we're not really shifting anything around. It's two independent calculations where taxes are going up in one service and going down in another. There's a limited number of services, however, that don't operate through a tax requisition. So you don't get the benefit of that reduction in those services. So instead, that gets recognized as some type of benefit to the user fee or the draw and reserve. So again, overall, there's kind of a net change of $575,000, but the swing in between all the various services was quite significant. So these are the charts that we normally go through for the budget review. So we've just reflected all the changes. And so this is a snapshot of all the services for all the different places as it sits today after all the changes are said and done. So we have Camp River, it's a $77 or $78 increase year over year. Primarily that comes from the net of the Strathcona Gardens increased reserve transfer for Recreate Phase 2 and a reduction of the general admin. And we also had the regional housing business case, if everyone recalls. And so aside from Sayward, most of the incorporated municipalities are going to reflect the same trend.
So just, Mike, if you could hold tight on that one here, just to kind of high-level simplify it. If we go back to January, we're $107 a home. That's what we proposed to Camp River. We'll speak to each one individually. The allocation changed, made that about a $30 a home reduction, and net, we're looking at $77.
So again, for Village of Gold River, you're seeing the same effect, but they're going to have some differences in the assessment shift and whatnot. But this is going to stem overall to a reduction of $1.31 per home. So it brings the average annual total to about $43 for 2025. And that's just the regional district requisition. They'll have their own municipal requisition.
So again, that one goes from what we proposed, an $8.24 increase to a reduction of $1.31 a home in that area.
Yeah, so that just these sports services are about $9.55 per house per year swing. So Village of Sayward, just a reminder that the majority of the changes here is from the change in the volunteer fire department setup. These taxes are now just getting collected through the Strathcona Regional District. In the years past, they were collected through the Village of Sayward. So we're showing a dramatic swing, whereas the homeowner will just pay to the regional district more money and less for the Sayward tax collection. And the overall swing here for the change was $8.38. This is a bit higher than the other villages simply due to the shared service. We have a shared garbage service and the shared fire service, which we're both attracting support services charged through transactions. Village of Tassus, same thing, so up $2 a home to $29 a home overall. And again, this is just a reduction of general administration. They're just not sharing as many expenses, so the general admin goes down. And same thing for Village of Zabalis. I would just repeat what I said for Village of Sayward. And KCFN has the same effect, where it's just a reduction of the general administration. So the electoral areas would be the most affected. So for Sayward, of course, we've traditionally divided this up into two sections. Sayward is an example of where they had a garbage collection service that didn't have a tax requisition I could reduce. So that benefit is reflected in a reduction of future user fees. If you did the math, that works out to about $37 per home. So the Village of Sayward's going up $33.87 because of the shift, and then people in the garbage service, which is a significant area, or represents a significant area of Sayward, will go down $37.21.
So if you could just stay there, this is an excellent example about how this is just not a linear process. In terms of what we had a preliminary budget for, we did the allocation shift in here. It depends on the services, how you're funding, what your budget is looking like for those communities. And at the end of the day, just to tie a bow on this, of what this reflects to Sayward is, as Mike says, the solid waste collection service makes up the vast majority of where people live in Sayward. And so at the end of the day, there's a net reduction in the electoral area budget of $3.34 a home after everything is said and done.
So we have a very similar situation for Area B. Coming into it, they were pretty flat year over year. The change resulted in an increase of $63.79. Anybody in the waste collection service would effectively receive a $26 benefit from a potential a benefit to the user fees. With Area B, we actually had a 5-year plan of increasing those fees up to $150. Now it looks like equilibrium is about $115. So any of the previously planned increases could be nullified. And for electoral area C is operated a little bit different. So they have $193 per home. They also, to a greater extent, they had a user fee benefit for their sewer and for their wars, where we were drawing. There was no tax requisition offset, so it'll be a lower draw out of the wars reserve. And for electoral area D, they didn't have any services that are solely funded by user fee. So everything here was off by a tax offset. They had a similar effect to electoral area A and B. However, it's just happenstance really that the three electoral areas ended up so close together. Electoral area D, because they share in the gardens, they act different than the other ones. But again, it just the way the cookie crumbled with the new plan is everyone ended up about $60 a home, except for Area C, which has the higher benefit.
If I can, just a quick comment on Area D, because they're a participant in Strathcona Gardens. The Gardens Commission agreed to half the contribution, if you will, from the draft budget. So that was plus or minus $80 in there. So the net effect of this really allocation change is, if you're committing the $80 to the Strathcona Gardens, is really about $13.
That's it in a nutshell. It's actually a very simple concept, but thousands of calculations behind the scenes. So again, we'll be delayed on the books, but happy to answer any questions.
Directors, anyone have a question? If you're online, please,
Interrupt.
there we go. Any questions? None? Oh, Director Mowini?
Thanks, Chair. So I was trying to make sense of this, and maybe I got it wrong, so I'm hoping you can clarify for me, Mike. I was thinking that if there was funding that was previously allocated to services and it's now being shared through just to the electoral area administration function, I guess I'm wondering is that areas with fewer services end up subsidizing areas with more services, or is that, and I just was trying to understand if that's part of why the Area C calculation is so much more significant than the other electoral areas.
Yeah, you're very close on that. I wouldn't use the word subsidy. Again, these are two independent calculations. I think electoral area B has a good example for their garbage service, perhaps. If you look out, the support service charge for that was about $18,000. And it's just because if you take our total IT and finance, it's 1.4. They were 1.3% of our total transactions, so they had an $18,000 charge. For finance and IT to maintain that, it's probably closer to $1,800 than it is $18,000. It's the current allocation is just not very logical. So if you try and measure the changes from an illogical system, any analysis you do is also going to be inherently illogical. But yes, to that point, if you think about the original 1.6 million that we're allocating, that effectively was a credit towards the new allocation. Area C just had less tax dollars to act as a credit. So they'll have a higher taxes per home, but they also get a greater user fee for home. That's why if you're actually in the garbage or the sewer service, that user fee credit effectively outweighs the entire shift. So they would see benefit, but it's a different area, so it's kind of hard to explain. But yeah, effectively Area C goes up on the current system, and chances are they just weren't high enough under the old system, so it just has a greater change. Like I say, it's just happenstance that the three ended up close together, and Area C was a bit higher out. But yeah, I would say that the new system is just more logical. So for the past 10 years, Area C was probably paying relative to the other areas less than they should have. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, totally. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Anyone online? We got Mark Van Esch, Director Von Esch.
It's muted.
You're muted.
Thank you, Chair. I had a question about Function 110, just looking at the difference between 2025 and 2026 and moving forward to 2029. 2025 shows a transfer from accumulated surplus of 1.3 million and a tax acquisition in 2025 of 650,000, and that moves up to almost doubles next year. I'm just wondering if you can explain the transfer that's in 2025 and just give some clarity to that. Thank you.
King, I'm going to answer that because it relates to, when you look at the 5-year plan, it relates to basically every service. So we know from 1 year to the next, services are going to carry forward a surplus. So when we do the 2025 financial plan, we'll incorporate the surpluses from every service. In year 2 to 5, there's no surplus carry forward shown because you have to balance out all those years. And so if you look at those increases, they seem dramatic because there's no surplus carry forward that we know we're going to have in every single service.
Thank you for that. And it just seems different. Most of the other services, there isn't that much of a dramatic change. This one is almost doubling. So I don't know, Mike, if you have any more info for that.
No, Dave's exactly right. So in any regional district, any financial plan, the upcoming year is the only one that contains these surplus. So it would be accurate if we spent every nickel of the budget, but in the past, we've never done that just because the budget contains contingencies and everything else. There's always a surplus, but it's just because we have an arbitrary date of December 31st and we have to produce financial statements on either side of those. So whether you're looking at 110 is just happens to be the largest one because we're just an administrative organization, so our general admin or any of the admin services are just that much higher. But you'll see the same effect throughout anything. Chances are we do plan on carrying a surplus, so it's just that timing difference that doesn't get reflected in the future years.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? No? Okay. We're on receipt. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. B, the bylaw 591 being the bylaw to adopt the 2025 to 2029 financial plan and capital expenditure program, now be introduced and read for the first time.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second. Director Mawhinney. Discussion? Director Mawhinney.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question for the corporate officer. I'm just curious what the legislative requirements for public notice are regarding the financial plan. I know we did some advertising and open for input earlier, and it just feels like this is a pretty significant change. I'm wondering if that window changes or what the requirements are legislatively. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the statutory requirements for consultation around the financial plan are not prescribed. Basically, it leaves it up to each regional district to determine what that looks like and when. And further, the regional district has advertised for each time the financial plan was coming before this board, an opportunity for the public to engage. And I believe we only have one written submission, which you'll see shortly on your agenda. Other than that, we've received no notice.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. C, a written submission from the public in respect to bylaw 591 being received by the board at this time. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Oh, were you putting your hand up? Director Mawhinney?
Thanks. I was just going to say that I thought it was really nice to see correspondence from the public regarding our financial plan. And I was wondering if staff had any thoughts on the letter.
I would say one thing in our plan, we actually show any feedback the public has on financial plan, they don't have to wait till 2 weeks, the 2-week advertising period. We get feedback all the time. The letter did speak to a lot about what informs the financial plan. It's not limited to a business case and a draft budget beforehand. We really operate all year round taking input. It's formed of all our collective experience through committee meetings, well, you guys would know better than I do, all the meetings and all the collectively. So, our financial plan is not a summation of 1 year or a couple months' experience. It stretches back, some of these items for, you look at like Area D water meters, right? That's not a 2026 project. That was a, consideration way back in the day. That extends to recreate or anything else. It's just the kind of the nature of the government when we're looking at these assets, we're making, 60, 70 years decision. It's not based on, a couple meetings up before in a budget cycle. It's really a culmination of, an extensive amount of work. So it's kind of hard, I guess, to see that sometimes if, like I say, if you see in the paper, and then tune into a board meeting or two to, catch the most recent financial plan. There's a lot of nuance that your elected officials have to, carry in their day-to-day business that goes into forming it. So I think that would be my one point is the scope of our financial planning is actually very, very broad.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, still on C, receipt. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. D, that any member of the public wishing to address the board regarding the bylaw 591 be given the permitted to do so.
So moved, Chair.
Thank you. We'll take Director Lott as a second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Is there anyone in attendance that wishes to speak? No? See the head vote. Thank you. E, that the rules be suspended for bylaw 591 and be given second and third reading.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Second.
We got Director Rice. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. F, the bylaw 591 being 2025-2029 financial plan and capital expenditure program, bylaw be reconsidered and finally passed and adopted.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Director Colburn?
Hi, all. I just really wanted to thank staff. I know that that these changes had forced you guys to work like during the weekend and late nights, and I really thank you for considering other ways to possibly review these services, and definitely be looking forward to a future committee of the whole to maybe put some of these practices into policy so that we can carry on in this vein. And thank you for always being open to reviewing and putting that time in. It's really appreciated. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Termination. I don't know, that almost seems too quick. That the March 31st, sorry, we got somebody online? Oh, Director Kerr.
I was just going to move termination.
I'll second it.
Director Lott seconded. Discussion? Call the question. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. Thank you very much for everybody to be here today. Muchly appreciated.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Take care. Muchly.